up, guys? So today I'm reviewing the DJI RS3 Mini, a bit of a mouthful there. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a lengthy review, so before I get into it, I just want to say I highly recommend this gimbal, as long as obviously your camera fits within the weight specifications for it. If it does, definitely go out and get this, ditch your RS2, even your RS3, and definitely if you have one of the older Ronins, go for this. This thing is tiny, has great power, and works just like all its big brothers. So that being said, I just wanted to show you kind of my setup right here. I have a handle off of my RS2 and then a small rig grip right here, so that's where I mount my monitor to. It's kind of hard, right? There's not a lot of real estate on the actual body of the RS3 Mini to mount anything, so having your monitor down here is definitely good for that. Something else that I just wanted to mention, just gimbals in general, especially these kind of like one-handed stick style gimbals, is that a reason why, I've run all sorts of different gimbals, from the FreeFly and then all the different DJI Ronin models all the way up to the RS2, and I always liked having the ring around the gimbal, and that's because the weight of the camera, your hands get to be right where it's at. Whereas if you're holding this thing, it gets really top heavy really quickly and you're really straining your wrists. So if you get this, that's the reason people get handles, is to try to help take some of that strain off your wrists. But if you have the handles down here, you're still gonna have that strain. And what you wanna do is try to get the handles up higher so they're more in line with the actual weight of the gimbal so it doesn't get so top heavy. Anyway, all that to say, yes, this is kind of my setup. And right now I'm running the Sony FX3 on here. I'll put an ND filter on here, variable ND when I'm outside, but for right now I just have just the gimbal and the lens on there. This is the Sigma 24-70 art lens, and it does balance on here just fine. I am pretty much at the limit of the different adjustments, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So keep that in mind, like you can't add a ton of accessories on here. If you're running manual lenses and you wanna have follow focus, like this is not for you. This works great. I don't have it on here, but it comes with a USB-C cable, which fits in a number of different brands of cameras. And depending on the brand of camera, at least with the Sony, you're able to control the focus from the gimbal down here using the little scroll wheel. So between controlling the focus from the thumb wheel and then the autofocus on the Sony lens or on the Sigma lens, like I'm set, and that works awesome. Following, you're out there, doing any sort of walk-in talks, or you're doing any sort of just B-roll shots. Like this thing is so cool because it's so tiny. I mean, it weighs less than the camera, which is huge when you're out there, carrying this thing around trying to get the shots, and it works just like its big brothers. Obviously with this camera on it, it's a little over 3 pounds. The weight limit on this is 4.5 pounds, 4.4 pounds or something like that. So well within the weight limit for it. I know I've seen a lot of people using like the Sony A7 IV or something on here, and for some reason like they can get it to balance really easy. I had a hard time balancing the FX3. It was really front heavy. Maybe it's just the Sony lens that I have on, but I even tried some old, Zeiss glass that I have that are smaller size lenses, and it was still really difficult to get to balance. So right at the limit of how far you can adjust it. So just keep that in mind. It's really going to depend on the weight of your setup and then your lens and camera combo. But I can attest that it does work with the FX3, FX30, obviously, with the Sigma 24-70 art lens on there. Now I'm just going to power this down real quick and lock it up. Something that's different about the way this gimbal is designed, it does have the locks, on all the axes, but you can also, because they understand that a lot of the bigger cameras for this setup, you're going to have everything, all the adjustments pushed out to the edge, or pushed out as far as you can go. So it doesn't pack all the way down by folding the gimbal up because of the adjustments I have on here. But they kind of thought of that already. And so what you can do is it has kind of like a half lock on the adjustments. So instead of trying to adjust this arm all the way down on here, you can see it hits right there because of how far I have the roll axis extended. It actually has like a partial lock. So it'll lock right there, which is nice so that it does pack down a little bit smaller than having it fully extended and you can just throw it in your bag. I wish it did come with the, sorry, I guess apparently didn't turn it off here. I wish it did come with a carry case for it, but it's small enough you can really just throw it in your bag, camera bag, side bag, and it doesn't take up too much room there. Now, an issue that I was having when I was balancing the roll axis with my FX3 on here was that the camera plate right here, it actually slides back and forth, but it wouldn't slide far enough to be able to fully balance the roll, because I have an HDMI cable normally coming off the side of the camera, so it was always tilting, rolling this way. And I've seen some really ingenious stuff on YouTube. One guy actually took this whole piece off, which you can do, right? Because this allows for vertical shooting, so you can slide it onto here. Anyway, he took this piece off and then drilled a hole through this adjustment arm right here and just attached his own little Arca Swiss plate on there. Great idea, but I really don't like obviously drilling through my gear if I can help it, and then the plate is locked right there. You don't have any additional adjustments. So all I did, the plate comes this way, so you slide the camera right from front to back. It slides off and I just flipped it around. So I put it on backwards, and that gives you a little bit of extra adjustment to be able to pull the camera this way to get the roll to balance, and it works great. Now, just be aware that it does have a quick release on here so that, right, it doesn't slide off, but when you have the plate flipped around, this plate can slide all the way off, all on its own. It doesn't have a, safety or anything on there to catch it. So just be aware of that, but I always keep it locked down, so I've never had any issues with it. But it's just a nice, easy way of not, hurting your gimbal at all, but still being able to get just a little bit of extra adjustment to get your FX3 to balance properly on the roll axis. So it has all the regular functions that like the RS2 has, or RS3 I'm assuming. You can do time lapse, you can do panorama, all those kind of things. I just use it for shooting B-roll, and it works awesome. I have my user settings set up, so I have some slow follow settings, faster follow settings, all that kind of stuff. It's funny, my wife was actually the one that suggested I check out this gimbal. We travel a lot for work, and so we're always looking to, slim down the gear that we're taking, trying to pack a more efficient, lighter weight stuff. And so we went from the Ronin MX to the RS2, and then which is we've been rocking with kind of the Pro. The Pro version has the follow focus wheel and everything on it. But since we moved over to the Sony FX3, we have the autofocus lenses, which work awesome. And so she said, check this out. And I was hesitant to, because it's small, and I've tried other companies' smaller gimbals, and they were just never up to par with the Ronin's algorithms and stuff for stability. But this little guy right here, I mean, obviously it's Ronin as well. It's just a smaller version of it, a little bit more lightweight, and it rocks. So it keeps up with its bigger brother, no problem. So just make sure when you get this that your camera setup is going to fit within the weight limits. Try to stay away from really pushing the limits. I'm sure this thing can handle it, but if you want to get the best performance out of it, I definitely keep your setup under 4 pounds. And then it's just the adjustments for trying to make your camera fit. So yeah, if you have issues with the roll axis, definitely flip your camera plate around. And also make sure the RS2's Arca Swiss plates do fit on here, but especially with some of these bigger camera setups, another issue I was having is that it was getting top heavy. And I realized that the RS2 Arca Swiss plates are a little bit higher, or at least one of them is a little bit higher than the one that comes with this. So I was able to put the RS3 Mini's plate on there, and it lowered my whole center of gravity on my FX3. So then I was able to get it to balance properly with the, I don't know, whatever this axis is right here. So just some little tips to keep in mind. But if you're looking for a good travel setup, or even an everyday gimbal setup, this is definitely something to keep in mind if you have a smaller camera rig. One thing is it doesn't have a detachable battery grip like the RS2 and the RS3, but as it is, I mean, it lasts for 8 to 10 hours, and I mean, for me, this will last multiple days of shooting because I don't run it constantly all day long. So to each his own though, definitely figure out, what you're going to be using it for, how long you need, and if you don't need to be running it constantly for days on end, then this is something to check out, or if you're traveling or something like that. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys.